I'm Steve Brooks, the Fire Chief with Lacey Fire District 3. And I wanted to take a few moments today to just give you some information about who we are as a fire district and also about a proposition that you will see on the general election ballot on November 3rd called Proposition 1. First, who are we as Lacey Fire District 3? If you're new to our community, or maybe just not familiar, sometimes we have a bit of an identity crisis. Because we have Lacey Fire in our name, sometimes we're confused as being a part of the City of Lacey government. But I'll take you all the way back to when we were first incorporated in 1949 by just an engaged group of community volunteers. They formed the fire district, and then fast forwarding to 1966 when the City of Lacey was incorporated, the newly formed city government had a decision to make. They could either form a city fire department, similar to the ones in Olympia and Tumwater, or they could retain the services of the fire district. Well, because we're still here, you know what the decision was. So we have continuously served both the City of Lacey, but also its surrounding urban growth area and the unincorporated areas around that ever since our incorporation in 1949. That's a 70 square mile service area that essentially runs from the Puget Sound to the north, all along the Pierce County border, to the communities of Yelm and East Olympia to the south, and includes the Nisqually Indian Reservation. To our west, our border runs to the City of Olympia. Within that service area, we have now over 100,000 residents, and in 2019, we responded to over 15,000 911 calls from our 5 community fire stations. Next, I'd like to answer the question, what is Proposition 1 and what will it do? As a fire protection district, we are almost exclusively funded by property taxes. Unlike the city departments that surround us, we receive no revenue from sales tax or other fees for service. We're limited to $1.50 per $1,000 of assessed value on property within our district. Proposition 1 will restore that levy rate from its current rate of $1.43 back up to the $1.50 limit. An obvious important question now comes, what will that restoration via Proposition 1 cost the average taxpayer or property owner within the community? While I'm sure you know that property taxes are very difficult to predict based on individual property values from year to year, what we try to do is take an average valuation in our district to help you make an informed decision. Currently, we're told that the average tax valuation in our community is about $350,000 on a single family home. If we take the current $1.43 rate and we restore it to that $1.50 level, the net impact to a taxpayer would be just under $2 per month, or about $20 a year for that average homeowner. The next question we often get is, if Proposition 1 is approved, how will the fire district use the new funds? It's a great question. I'll actually go back and review what's happened since the levy was last restored in 2014. At that time, the restoration of the property tax allowed us to keep a station open that was previously being funded by a grant, and we've been able to add an additional response resource focused on emergency medical responses. An aid unit similar to the one that you see behind me was staffed at our Mullen Road station because at that time that's where we were seeing the most significant growth. Since that time, we've seen a shift in our community, and now we're experiencing rapid and pretty dramatic growth in the east and northeast portions of our district. So if Proposition 1 is approved, our first priority would be to add another aid unit to our Stillicum Road station, what we call Station 34, to help keep up with the demand for those emergency medical responses. By having these smaller units that are focused on emergency medicine, that allows our engines, ladder trucks, and other specialized resources to remain available to respond to those fire incidents or other types of rescues that only they are adequately equipped and capable of handling. And the last question, of course, is, well, if Proposition 1 is not approved, what happens? Well, let me first say that the dedicated men and women of Lacey Fire District 3 will continue to do everything they can to serve and protect this great community with the resources you, our taxpayers, have provided. But inevitably, as we continue to see a rise in the calls for services, if we're not able to increase our staffing and the resources available to respond, there will ultimately be a slowing or a decrease in response times and a decrease in the reliability of our units to be able to meet the demand, especially when we have concurrent responses. Many times each day, we have multiple 911 calls that occur almost simultaneously. If we don't have enough units in a given station area to respond, we must rely on units responding either from further away across the district at more distant stations, or at times even relying on our partners that surround us to come on what we call mutual aid responses to help us keep up with that increase in demand. As those other communities continue to grow, obviously their ability to help us in those ways may also be challenged. I want to close by just saying thank you for taking a few moments to hopefully learn some new information about who we are as Lacey Fire District 3 and answer some of your questions that you might have about Proposition 1. If you have remaining questions, I'd love to try to answer those personally, so feel free to email me. It's pretty simple, sbrooks@laceyfire.com, or you can always call our headquarters station and ask to speak to me. We'll also have some additional information posted on our website, and we're active on social media, so be sure to follow us there.